I'm recording this session so that we can archive it. I would ask that if you're not speaking, that you would mute yourself so that there is no background noise in the conversation. I probably am going to be off camera because I'm going to be remotely clicking the screens. I'm the Reverend Dr. Bonnie Bates. I'm the Association's Associate Minister for Congregational Vitality and Development for the United Church of Christ in the Eastern Ohio and Western Reserve Association. Take a deep breath. Basically, that means I work with our church development and church vitality folks, interim ministers, search and call. I want to invite the Reverend Dr. Bill Edwards to introduce himself. He's the regional pastor of the Disciples of Christ. Bill? I know he's here. Okay. It is my pleasure to have you join us this morning for I guess it's afternoon now, for nonviolent communication. I want to introduce to you Francois, Beausoleil, and Irene Bowers, who will be doing our presentation today. I encourage you all, as I mentioned, to mute your own mics and to put the speakers at the top of your thumbnails, the small active speaker video, so you can see who's speaking. Have a marvelous presentation. We will have time for questions at the end. Irene,
Bonnie?
it's up to you. Yep.
Yeah, this is Bill Edwards. Sorry, I just had a difficult time getting my off of mute.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to express appreciation to you, Bonnie, and to our presenter for making this time available, and to members of our disciples congregations who are participating in this. We've been real intentional being sponsoring by our congregational transformation team to equip our leaders with information that's going to help them be effective in their leadership. And so I'm excited about the partnership we have with the United Church of Christ, and looking forward to our time together and doing things like this into the future. So God's blessings be with you. I'm excited about this topic, and we'll look forward to sharing in it.
Thanks, Bill. May you join us in an attitude of prayer at this moment. God, we ask that you open us so that we might hear with both open ears and open hearts. Open our minds to learn new things, and bless us each and all in these moments as we learn better ways to talk and listen and communicate with one another. In Christ's name we pray. Irene, it is up to you.
Okay, thank you. And thank you all for asking Francois and I to share with you today. When Bonnie first asked me to share about NVC, I was really thrilled. I share about NVC because this is the most powerful thing that I've found in my life that moves us from a focus on what's wrong to what really matters and what's really important in our life. And I've asked Francois Beausoleil to join on the call as well, because he has developed a really beautiful process within NVC that helps us dissolve blame, which is one of the things that is most corrosive in our society. And so we're going to share with you about those things today. And I'm actually going to ask Francois to say a few things. Are you there, Francois?
Yes. Hello, Irene. Hello, everyone. Thanks for that opportunity. So today what we'll do, Irene and I, is to give you a brief introduction to nonviolent communication and also to what I call blame-free living. And this is very important to me. Those two things, like these two movements, actually, nonviolent communication and blame-free living, are extremely important because they are a response to violence. So simply put, there's been a lot of violence in the history, and I often ask people, what is the cost of violence? I start my workshop asking people, what is the cost of violence? And very quickly we get to this place of where it's almost impossible to get a sense. The magnitude of it is just so huge. But still, I think it gives us enough of a sense of the huge cost it's been on many people, and still is. So nonviolent communication and the blame-free state, the blame-free living are a direct response to that. And for me, this is the most strategic response, because blame is the number one thing that causes violence, in my point of view, and based on a lot of research. That whole energy of looking at someone and thinking, oh, that it is this person's fault. That person is bad, and that person needs to be punished. It's been the overall, it's like a stance. I often call it the trance of blame, but the stance that's been causing so much violence and so much pain. So when we're able to move out intentionally, to move out of that trance of blame, then there's a whole new world that opens up. And I've been teaching all over the world recently and found it to be true wherever I go, whether it's Costa Rica, Japan, China, and Europe, and the States and Canada. That trance of blame has been blinding many of us for thousands of years. Yeah. So actually, let me check, and I might ask your help, Bonnie, to facilitate this, and maybe I'll try it by myself. But I'd like to hear from a few of you briefly. What do you see as the cost of blame on ourselves? Let's say if you blame someone else with that energy of wrongness, what is the cost on you if you blame that person? All right. Again, the question: what is the cost on you if you blame someone else? And I guess maybe just unmute yourself and just speak freely if you wanna respond briefly, maybe in 15, 20 seconds.
I'm Jim Edwards. Not altogether clear where you're headed here. If there is a radical extremist who blows up a theater full of people in Paris or right here in North Ridgeville, they are blameworthy. They have violated human laws and God's laws, and I don't know that blame should be the focus, but there's been a serious moral failing that cannot be overlooked.
Yes. Yeah, thanks, Jim. And the way I want to approach this is to, before going at these really highly costly events like the ones you're mentioning, if we zoom back a little bit and look in our daily lives, like someone cuts us on traffic, someone next to you does something you're not happy with, and we have this trance of blame that's happening right there, right then and there. What is the cost on us when we get in that place of, wow, they are wrong, they are bad, any version of that? What could be the cost on us? Are you following me, Jim?
This is Bill Meyer with Bonnie, and I wanted to comment that when we blame others, it deprives us of the capacity for introspection, and ultimately it deprives us of the ability to repent. Yes.
All right. Thank you. There's a way in which when the energy goes outwards and we see the wrongness in others, then we're not looking inside to see what's happening, and we're not looking inside to see what's really important to me. A lot of the energy goes outwards in the wrongness outside. And then if we don't look inside, then it's hard to see places where we did things that we are not happy with what we did. I think this is what you mean when you say the ability to repent. So we miss a lot of information about what's important to us when the energy goes outwards. Thanks, Bill. Anyone else wants to jump in? Again, the question is, what is the cost on us when we blame others? And again, let's keep it at a low level. Let's say 3 or 4 on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the biggest blame we could have. Maybe a couple more people.
My name's Liz Deweese, and I'm here at Compass Christian Church in Mason. And I just wanted to say that I think, one, blame invites defensiveness, which heightens the level of tension, but also for ourselves, it limits our ability to experience compassion.
Yeah, thank you. You sort of nailed the main components. Yes. This is
My name is
Yeah, I'll hear from one more person and then I'll wrap it up. Yes.
my name is Dennis Morosco. I'm at Tyson Foods in Claryville, Kentucky. Live up in Loveland. It also has a health issue, high blood pressure, and who knows what other kinds of medical things that we can cause to ourselves. It's physical, mental, social, spiritual. All of those areas get impacted.
Yeah, thank you. Again, like if Liz nailed the core of it, you sort of nailed the overall big picture of it. Like blame is one of the main cause for stress. And stress, we know by now, is the main cause of illnesses. Like it causes or makes worse 80% of illnesses, like just the stress and stuff. And then, I mean, we know by now also that health is the real wealth. And blame is the main thing that contributes to that in my own experience. All the physical aspects that are coming out of this internal tension. And a couple of things I want to say also briefly, that blame is the number one thing that damages relationships. The number one thing that damages relationship, because exactly of what Liz said. When we're in a blame place, we talk to people, they feel it. And they get defensive, and oftentimes they counterattack. And now we get in this place of build up and escalate, and it's kind of really hard to get out of this. And also, blame is the number one collaboration killer. If you want to do something as a group and there's blame in it, well, good luck. Like it's going to be much harder. Even Google made this huge study, years and years, I think 7 or 8 years, just to find what makes team work well. And they found it's very hard, but they found that they call it psychological safety. So if you're in a team where you sense that you can just talk freely and not having fingers pointed at you, that's the main thing that contributes to collaboration working well. Also, blaming others has virtually zero effectiveness. This actually damages a lot of what's going on between people. And blame is highly contagious. And we're doing it forever. And most of us are in this trance of blame. That's what it makes it so hard to move out of it. And this is the work Irene and I have been doing. We've been working to find a way, using some core elements of nonviolent communication, to come up with a map where people can take some time, and I'll demonstrate that in a few minutes, how to consciously move out of the blame trance so we don't have to have all the cost. And blame for others and also blame for ourselves. Blame for ourselves is actually at least as costly as blaming others. But we won't get into that today. Today we'll focus mostly on blaming others. And what we'll do for the remaining of the call is we'll have a little introduction to nonviolent communication. Then we'll talk more about the core of nonviolence itself, which is this idea of AHIMSA, and I'll explain what that means later. I'll do a demonstration, and then for the rest of the call, we'll have a period of questions and answers. So let's have you jump in right now, Irene, to introduce some of the key basic aspects of NVC.
Yes, thank you. Bonnie, would you be helping me and move to the page on needs? I think it's page 5. One more. Perfect. So what I want to share is the really basics of NVC and how we think about this. There are a couple of main things that I want to focus on today. And one of the most important things in nonviolent communication is this understanding.
Be done at 1.
And so needs are things We could think of them as values. We think of them as, this is something that really matters to me. And they're universal. Every human being has needs. We all recognize them in someone. Like for example, I might have a need for creativity that I express in art. My mother, who is very organized, expresses her creativity through her spreadsheet. But we both would understand, oh, that's a really creative way to do this. Am I making sense so far?
Yep.
Oh, and the needs, so we think about these are like really basic to all of us. And when our needs are met, we're in a really good place and we're happy. When our needs aren't met, we're often unhappy or suffering. And in our culture, we have this really strong focus on something other than needs. We focus a lot on right and wrong. This is the right thing, this is the wrong thing. And needs, by focusing on what we are valuing, it cuts through all of that. It gets to what really is important to us. It's a really hard thing, because when we find someone that we think this person is doing something really wrong, well, then they become a wrongdoer. And then we're the right doer because we see their wrongness and we understand this. But in each case, the wrongdoer that we're labeling and the right doer that we're labeling ourselves, each of us is acting out of some strategy to meet our needs. We may not actually get the need met, but the strategy is intended to meet the need. So I may decide that I'm really frustrated with somebody and I may want them to stop what they're doing, and I may yell at them. So what I'm wanting is peace or ease or consideration. The strategy I picked to achieve it isn't really going to get my need met. So I want to differentiate between needs and strategies. Bonnie, can you move to the next slide for me? Thank you. So feelings in NVC do something really important. They tell us about the state of our need. So if I'm feeling happy, maybe it's because my need for inclusion is being met. Or if I'm feeling unhappy, maybe my need for inclusion is not being met. I'm feeling left out. And then one more slide, Bonnie. Empathy is the second most important thing in nonviolent communication. And empathy is a way that we are present with our feelings and needs and present with the feelings and needs of others without judgment. Can one of you or two of you perhaps tell me how you define empathy? If you would unmute yourself and tell me how you see it.
Don't be shy.
Trying to identify what someone else is feeling and trying to reconcile that. Utilize my own experience to try and understand it.
Yeah, I like that. You want to understand what the other person is feeling and what their experience is? Absolutely. Another person?
I'm Jim Ellison in Middleburg Heights, Ohio.
Hi, Jim.
Empathy, the way I think of it is, it's a matter of identifying with another person without losing yourself.
Yeah.
If we identify
like
with somebody else without boundaries, then we assume that we are the other person and essentially feel the same things that we think they're feeling. But empathy is a matter of keeping ourselves, but also identifying and understanding that another person feels a different way.
Yes, I really like the way you expressed that. It's identifying with really experiencing or guessing what's happening in the other person's world while still maintaining our own sense of what's happening in our world, and being able to hold that balance and be present to another person while holding ourselves. It's a beautiful way to put it. Thank you. So I agree with both of your definitions, and you hit the main points of empathy. Thank you for that. In NVC, one of the things that we think about when we think of empathy is we actually make empathy guesses because we don't for sure know how someone else is feeling or what it's like in their world. And there's a really beautiful quality to this guessing of somebody else, because even if we guess wrong, if we've really positioned ourselves in a state of empathy to another person, they will feel our caring, and our wrong guess will actually cause them to consult internally. Hey, how is this for me? You know, that wasn't exactly it. You know, it's actually this. And so the question deepens their experience, whether our question is right or wrong. It's actually our presence with them that helps them to connect more deeply with themselves. So these feelings, empathy and needs, are the two most important parts of nonviolent communication. And there's a lot of, we can spend a lifetime going through them, but I'm going to leave it there for now. And Bonnie, can you go to the next slide? So the rest of the components, the basic components of NVC, are observation, and that means to actually see what's happening as opposed to our judgment of it. So if I were standing in front of you and you were to see me take the marker from the easel and put it in my pocket and then later leave the room, tell me what you would think if you saw that happen. Unmute yourself and just shout out what you're thinking.
Oh, they're shy.
They are so shy.
You stole the marker.
No.
Yes, I'm a thief. Exactly. What else might you think?
This is Debbie Sachs at First Christian Church in Cuyahoga Falls. And I will say that as an ENFJ, like super J,
Uh-huh.
we'll be thinking about 6 different things at once. And that's why I'm not answering.
Okay, well, give me a couple of them.
So I would be wondering if you had forgotten. I would be wondering, man, she really liked that marker. Or I would be wondering any number of other things. And then also whether or not to ask you about it.
Wow, okay, so you were attributing possible great motives to me. You know, maybe I was just forgetful, or I was in love with the marker, and then actually going into a possible action related to it. Wonderful, yeah. So this is great. So actually, what actually happened? So we have these observations. I was forgetful, maybe I loved the marker, I had a use for it, I'm a thief. But what actually happened is I put the marker in my pocket. And that's the difference between an observation and an evaluation. And we evaluate so quickly. It's part of how our brains function. But becoming aware of this helps us a great deal to actually interact with our world in a more honest way and a more powerful way, because we're dealing with reality instead of the story we told ourselves about what we saw. The last part of the basics of NVC that I want to touch on is the request. And this is instead of a demand. If I request someone to do something for me, they have a choice, and they can choose to do it or not. And if they say no, a lot of people think, well, you know, if I've really done NVC properly, then, and I've created this beautiful request and I figured out what's going on for me, then everyone should do exactly what I need them to do. but there might be a reason that they might not want to do what I've asked. Anybody want to guess what that is? Maybe it doesn't meet their need. Maybe they have some other thing that they need to do that feels to them more important than what I'm asking. And so what are they doing? They're acting in that sense to meet their own need. And so if I want to continue the conversation with them, I might actually inquire of them, hey, what's going on with you that this doesn't make sense to you? Tell me about what's happening in your world. And they might say, oh, I have this other really urgent thing. Maybe at that point I shift. I say, wow, this thing I'm looking for, I don't need it today. Let me help you with yours, because now that I understand what's going on with you, I'm going to shift. And so when we actually do this, when we understand each other's basic needs, then a lot of things are possible, because we've gone from living out of the evaluation that we make about somebody else to actually guessing what's really motivating their behavior. For me, getting to this point has been, if any of you have seen the movie The Matrix, This is like when Neo sees the code.
Yeah.
Like, it was this powerful for me. I use this when I listen to people talk to me. I'm interpreting or guessing, wow, what is it that they're actually needing? So they may say, you never support me. And I'm thinking, wow, you know, this person, they actually want some help and support. And so I can respond, most days I can respond to what I believe their need may be, that as opposed to what they just said to me, and it helps reduce a lot of conflicts and inspire a lot more collaboration. And I use all of these things as I'm expressing with other people, and sometimes I translate their expression back to me. So I know that was kind of quick, but we only have a short time today, so I hope that was a reasonable introduction to the basics of NVC. And I actually want to share or turn it back over to Francois, because he's going to take us deeper into how do we use this to move out of the ways that we unconsciously blame in our lives and give us more opportunity to create synergy and collaboration.
All right, thanks, Irene. So yes, we're going to use the technology, the approach of nonviolent communication, which again is to help us move from what's wrong to what's important. All of this through NVC is simplified by vocabulary of needs and vocabulary of feelings. And so we're going to use that to move at the heart of nonviolence, which is the word I mentioned before, AHIMSA, which means absence of violence in Hindi. Marshall Rosenberg, who created nonviolent communication, used this term because he wanted to be aligned with the work of Gandhi, amongst others. And in Hindi, the word for nonviolence is AHIMSA. And AHIMSA also can be translated this way: state of the heart that has no enemies. State of the heart that has no enemies. It's completely core to the whole huge movement of nonviolence, to find a place where we can move out of that trance of blame and be in that place of be basically enemy-free at the level of the heart. So, and I hear a bit of background noise. If you're not speaking, please mute yourself. Now, into this work of moving out of blame, there's a concept of enemy image. An enemy image, that is the trance. It's a physical experience of wrongness of others or ourselves. And an enemy image can be described as a sustained blame that we hold, or a persistent negative idea of someone else, ourselves, groups, animals, objects, situations, and so on. And I'm guessing you can relate to what I'm talking about. When someone does something, even my cat, when my cat wakes me up in the middle of the night, and again, I'm hearing background noise. Would you please mute yourself? There's some kind of a machine going on, or I don't know. And Bonnie, would you help me with that? Because I find it really distracting. It might be Bonnie, actually. Irene, can you help me with that? Because all right. So now we have more sounds. Thank you. All right. So now what I intend to do is to work with one of you and get you started. I mean, we don't have a lot of time, but I want to get you started. If you want to move out of the trance of blame, to avoid all the cost and be in that place of the heart that has no enemies, we developed a system, a sequence to get there. So I'd like to work with one of you who has, I was starting to talk about my cat. Yeah, when my cat wakes me up in the middle of the night, my first reaction is, no, you don't have anything to do. You don't even need to work. Like, all the food is paid, you have everything you want, and on top of that, you need to wake me up in the middle of the night. I'm the one working here. Can you just give me a break, right? So I have this trance of blame, because I've been trained to have that. Like we all have been trained to find, who's wrong, whose fault it is. And so I get in this trance of blame in the middle of the night when my cat does that. And I use this kind of system that I'm going to demonstrate. Again, based on feelings and needs. Like, I'm just wondering, so how's the cat feeling? Cat's feeling lonely and hungry, probably. Of course, this specific cat is always hungry. So it's not hard to guess. And then if that cat is lonely, well, they want some company. And if they're hungry, they want some food. So I can sort of now let go of that trance of blame and just be with a being who has some needs that they want to be attended to. Right? So let's work with one of you who has some blame for someone else, not the biggest one you ever had. Let's say a 3 or a 4 on a scale from 1 to 10. And if you're willing to be with me for maybe 10, 12 minutes, I'll just lead you through some of the main steps so you can, we'll attempt to decrease a little bit the intensity of the blame for that other person. So if you're willing to help the learning here, just unmute yourself and speak. Again, something happened to you recently. You're still upset about it, but it's not too high, like a small thing. Please unmute yourself.
Don't be shy, folks. Somebody step up.
All right. So here's one.
Who are you?
My name's Brian Sachs. I'm here at Cuyahoga Falls.
Hi, Brian. Thanks for jumping in.
Yeah. My 3-year-old refuses to sleep in. And as someone who does not respond to mornings very well, it becomes very confrontational and not productive because I'm tired and grumpy and he's 3.
This is his wife, Debbie. I can verify everything he just said.
Okay. All right. So therefore, do you have a sense of blame towards your kid or towards yourself or both? Or
yes, a sense of blame towards him for we do the naps, we try all the strategies, and it's just sleep. He has this little alarm clock to let him know when to get up. Even if it's just stay downstairs and don't bother daddy for the next, hour. That type of thing. And also myself, because I'm getting upset with a 3-year-old.
Yes, thank you, Brian. That's typically what happens. We would have some blame outwards and blame inwards, and oftentimes the blame for others actually is a cover-up for the blame that we have for ourselves. So I'm glad you're naming it. I'm guessing you really want to have more choicefulness and spaciousness to hold a 3-year-old with just more ease and more compassion, more understanding, and you're not finding that space, and it's hard for you to accept that in yourself. Does that make sense? You're still there, Brian?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't catch the question.
Oh, and I was just sort of reflecting my understanding that it might be hard for you, as you mentioned. It's like you would want to have more compassion for your kid in that situation. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So let's do a little bit of the work, and I'll invite you, maybe Bonnie, to put the slides, the PowerPoint at the slide which has the feelings list in it. Thank you. So Brian, when you, let's say, put yourself in a situation when that happened, when was the last time that it happened? Was it like this morning or?
Yesterday.
Yesterday, all right. So yesterday, same thing happens. Your son is there and you want to do other things. What were the main feelings that were present for you, if you could choose like maximum 3, like 2 or 3 main feelings.
I would say bitter, annoyed, and discouraged.
All right, okay, all right. So bitter, annoyed, and discouraged. And now, Bonnie, would you move to the next slide, which is the list of needs? Like the principle in nonviolent communication is that the feelings gives us information about the needs, and the needs are what's important. So we use the feelings to get that information. So this is what we're going to do now in real time. So you're feeling bitter. You were feeling bitter because you were needing more of what? So if you would choose some of these needs there, you were needing more of what in that moment?
In that moment, I would say peace, hope, and harmony.
All right, yeah. So you're in that situation. You're in that moment. You want to focus on something. You want more peace inside and outside. You want to be hopeful that you'll be able to attend to these things that are important to you, or just to be with yourself in the future. And you want harmony in the household. So that makes sense. And when we look at annoyed, so you were annoyed because you were wanting more of what? It could be the same thing, but it could be different needs. You were you want more rest, basically, just that ability to sleep and restore yourself. Very precious to you. Because what does that do to you when you're able to sleep? I mean, it might be obvious. I still want to hear it. What's the difference when you're able to sleep more for you?
I'm able to be more focused with him and his needs throughout the day, more functional, and ultimately more compassionate.
Exactly. So that's what you're wanting, is to be compassionate. And without that sleep, like physiologically, you're more reactive. You have less space, and you want to contribute to him, to be more present, be more compassionate. It's hard without sleep. The third one, you said discouraged. So you're discouraged because you need more of what?
I'm discouraged because, all these other things we've tried, like the napping and alarm clock, talking to him about it before night so he remembers to utilize these things, aren't working.
Yeah.
So it's discouraging that the steps we're taking aren't working.
Yeah. And if you look at this list of needs, like this is where we go sort of deeper from just ideas and things to do and look at what's really important to us. You feel discouraged because you need more of which of these needs there?
It's healing, respect, and being seen.
Yeah. And in this case, being seen for you, the incredible amount of care that you have and love and dedication. Is that it?
Yeah, that, but also just, at some point he'll develop empathy and see that, he's slowly killing daddy by not letting him sleep.
Yeah, you want you to be understood in the high cost it has on you to not sleep. And you use these words like slowly killing daddies. It's so costly. You really would like that to be understood by him.
Yeah. Well, because then that enables me, if I'm rested, that enables me to deal with him better and also take care of all the other stuff.
Exactly. Absolutely. Right, so you see now what we did, we moved towards what's important to you, and what's important to you is that sense of peace, some hope, some harmony, but mostly being able to have the choice inside of you where you can take care of him and take care of all the other things, and you would really love to be understood by him. So that's one piece. Now let's turn the table around, and if we go back to the feelings slide, Brian, I'm going to ask you to now get in that place of empathy and just guess what do you think are the main feelings that are present for your son? When yesterday, I don't know what he did exactly, probably just came up and started talking to you. What do you think were the main feelings that were present for him?
Let's see. I would say anxious. Lately, he keeps talking about being scared, but I don't even think he fell asleep the last time he said he had a nightmare. So I'm not sure how much he's trying to play off that.
Mm-hmm.
But I just probably just anxious and lonely.
Yes. Okay. All right. So anxious, lonely, potentially scared. We don't know. And if we go back to that next slide of the needs, we'll do the same thing. So if he's feeling anxious, he's anxious because he needs more of what in this list of needs?
Comfort.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Safety. And warmth, caring.
Yeah, all right. So he might be wanting comfort, safety, and some warmth and care. Okay. If he's lonely, what is it that he might be wanting more of again in this list of needs?
I was going to say, on this list, because the word that comes to mind is attention, but that's not here. I would say probably being seen, and again, really safety.
Yeah.
Because he was a little he co-slept with us, so that's what he was used to. So
yeah. Yes. Okay. And if you were to be scared, what is it that he's wanting? This, I mean, again, might be obvious, but I still want to hear.
Yeah, comfort.
Comfort, yeah. And I would say in some ways, safety too. Usually when we're scared, we're just wanting a bit more safety, so it points to that place. And I'm just wondering if there might be something about acceptance, like hearing that he co-slept with you, that now it's a different universe, and it might be the place where he feels a bit unsafe and maybe even wants to be accepted for the fact that it's difficult for him to make that transition, or maybe something at that level. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Yes. So I mean, we would go a bit deeper. But I mean, checking with you, can you relate, Ryan, with this human experience? It's almost like whether it's a kid or not, like the human experience of feeling anxious and lonely and wanting to be seen and accepted, and the human experience of looking for more safety, that in the phase where a change has been happening, and it's confusing, and almost like wanting some reassurance of a fuller sense of acceptance and understanding. Can you relate to that sort of human experience for your son?
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. And thank you. I mean, I just feel excited. I mean, the process we did might seem very simple, but for me, it triggers a lot of hope. Is when we slow down things enough to connect with what's important to ourselves and what's important to others. Usually that creates the bridge of compassion. And when we're taking that bridge, we're together, and we can hold things together and find ultimately something that works for both people. And usually, I mean, this is just one of the three main steps of moving out of blame. And after these steps, several people, there's different experiences. Some people are neutral, some people are shifted, Some people are even more upset at this point. It's not a linear process. We just don't know. And that's why there's other steps. But usually, most people can feel a bit more the humanity of the person they feel upset at. And this whole thing is about rehumanizing others, because when we rehumanize others, we can relate to them this way. And it usually does a little something to us. And so I just want to check with you, Brian. Does that help you reduce a little bit the blame that you had for your son? Just knowing what's important to you and what's important to him in that situation.
Yeah, I would say so. I have a tendency to approach things from the more logical side. So having it be more of a emotional process and focusing on emotion, especially with his age and where he's at, is helpful.
All right, great. Thank you, Brian. Yeah. That's where when we're in the world of thoughts, it's one realm, and it makes sense to use our intelligence, use our minds, and the invitation from NVC is to actually use our minds and our hearts. They actually, we know they both have brains. There's a brain around the heart as well. So when we combine the logical thinking and the wisdom of the heart, which is emotions and needs, then this is where we believe we can have the more access to actions that would be life-serving for ourselves and others. So thanks so much, Brian. And now I just want to turn it up to a series of questions and answers. So just unmute yourself, and Irene as well, and both of us will answer questions for the next 10 minutes.
Hey, this is John Romick, and we're at the Gender Road Christian Church in Canal, Winchester. We get about 10 people here in the room.
Hello,
when
everyone.
I hear the nonviolent communication, one of the things that really comes to mind is with the state of the country, and a lot of people worked up over what's happening. And I sort of fretted and prayed about how do I approach Sunday's message, knowing that, within our church we have people on both sides, the political extremes, and feel very passionate. And so, my words, I don't know, whatever I said somehow came across okay, because people were pleased with what I said, and, somehow acknowledging what's, as Rob Bell puts it, kind of what's in the air, this feeling that's in the air, this feeling of unrest and uncertainty, what's going on with the country. Some people are very happy about it, some are concerned. So when I hear about nonviolent communication, my thought is there's people intentionally trying to be violent in their communication and to take down or support of what's happening, within the whole political spectrum. So our people see that in the media, and then that sort of gives permission for us to treat each other horribly, one-on-one. We certainly do that in anonymity, on Facebook or Instagram or other places, but then it translates down into, just as people are talking about it, and then our kids are talking about it in the schools, and adults are talking about it. And I see it straining relationships. So, I guess how do we, I assume other people are dealing with this problem as well. So how do we avoid violent communication and help people still express themselves and to try to move forward?
Yeah, I love the question. There's a couple of parts to it. One is, does it help? I mean, does it help something this escalate? Does it do something positive for us, for our health, for the health of the country? Does it help? I don't think so, right? So that's the first thing to know. And I think a lot of people now are getting it. Like blame on one side, blame on the other side, all this escalate. It's really, really costly. Now think about what's happening when we do that. We have a bunch of people who have resources that they could use for the greater good. And a lot of these resources are used to kind of destroy each other's resources. Like we cancel what we have on one part because so much of it is used to fight against each other. Does that make sense? I don't think so. So now it's a huge shift, a very radical shift that is necessary. And each of us can be part of that shift. And to answer your question, how can we communicate in a space like this, is to embody exactly what we looked at today, which is to see other people's humanity as a main foundation of our communication, is the cornerstone of what can shift things around. Anything that is blame in return, we're just feeding the fire. We're creating more separation, more disconnection, more fight, more anger, more escalate. Anything else than that is you're just, like I said, feeding the fire. So now, and there's nothing, all this work, there's not like an easy, simple answer. There's so many parts to it. But one distinction here is between blame and accountability. It is possible to hold others accountable for what they did without seeing them as bad or wrong, or without having this blame energy. A lot of people are afraid that if I stop blaming, then it means that people can do whatever they want. It's actually the opposite. And this one is kind of harder to explain shortly, but the principle is that the more we blame others, the less we hold them accountable. We sort of blame them for being bad or wrong or stupid, whatever that is. We don't engage with them about how to do things differently when we hold them this way. And of course, because we hold them this way, do you think they want to collaborate with us? That's the last thing they want. They have a sense of being blamed, not being seen, not being understood. So guess what? They will retaliate. They will get defensive. So that's why I'm saying blame is the number one thing that kills collaboration. There's just no way we can do things better together if we move from a place of blame. And it's really hard to do it, but guess what? It's really hard not to do it as well. This is why Irene and I, we're proposing solutions to move out of that wrongness energy, or at least decrease it, so we can start talking to each other and address what's really important.
I want to add to that, Francois.
Yeah, please.
Is that two things briefly. One is when people are very tending towards violence, it means that they have a lot on the table, that there is something that is really, really, really important to them. And it's generally related to their sense of safety in the world, or their sense of trust, or their sense of security. And these are, so when I start thinking about, okay, what is on the line for this person? Because it helps me to think of them as like, what's important to them? And it takes me out of thinking of them as wrong or opposed. So really, what's important to this person who is talking so agitatedly, for example. The other thing to remember is that when people are agitated or triggered, their thought function goes back into their amygdala, which is the back of our brain, and we're in our amygdala, we're in fight, flight, freeze. We've lost a lot of our capacity for reason. And so the way to bring someone back into their capacity to reason is actually empathy. When they feel heard and understood, they get restored to balance, and they are able to then have a conversation. And so bringing empathy to that situation, or possibly separating if both parties are triggered, then talking to someone else who can offer empathy until there's balance again. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Irene. One last question, then we'll wrap it up.
My name is James Ellison. I'm at Middleburg Heights in Ohio.
Hi, James.
A lot of this seems like it comes down to perspective and how we think of ourselves. For instance, we were talking about blame earlier. The idea of blame assumes a certain dualism. That's probably easier to think of, but usually doesn't reflect what reality is.
Exactly.
Reality is is more of a matter of a diversity. I mean, I'm one person and I'm in the midst of other people, and each of us are unique in a lot of ways. And there's probably just as many, if not more, factors involved in most any situation that we might react with some blame. But if we can take our perspective, not so much as a us versus them kind of thing, but as a member of a diversity of equals or multiple factors, I think it's easier to conceive what's really going on.
Thank you so much. This is exactly how I'm holding this. When we are in the trance of blame, we are actually working from the amygdala. Like we lose sense of perspective. Things are black and white due to this or that. That person is bad. It's their fault. And the cost is what? The cost is reality. We make decisions based on a very, very small and inaccurate slice of reality. And then we all collectively pay the price for that. So the work on blame, the work on the NVC is to zoom out and slow down. So we have the rest of reality emerge. Different possibilities. Not just one possibility, but is it possible that this, like this person was saying about the pen in the pocket, like, is it possible that that person is this? Is it possible this? Is it possible that? Now we have more options. We make better decisions. So exactly. Thank you. Thanks a lot for that. Irene, do you want to add something?
I want to add that this is a perspective that takes practice and discipline to embody. It's a presence of how we bring ourselves to the world. The first slide that we actually didn't speak to, it's a communication process, but even more than that, it's the presence. How am I going to see the world? Am I going to see the world as, hey, all of these people are doing things to try to meet their needs, and let me figure out like what is going on with them, or do I want to snap to judgment and making the choice over and over again of how I want to hold this.
Yeah, thank you. And it does take practice, and it's not that huge. It's way easier than any degree at university. We had one person. She said she did this process 50 times, maybe invested 25 hours, and then she was able to get in the middle of a very complex, long-lasting conflict in a church community as well. And she was able to create shift. Because when she came to talk to people, she didn't come from a place of blame and wrongness. They were able to hear her, and so it's doable. It requires some time, but it's absolutely doable.
This is Bill Meyer again at Middleburg Heights. The question I want to raise is how do we distinguish between this sort of rehumanization, which I think is very, very, very valuable, and on the other hand, failure to confront real systemic evils, such as racism, or in Gandhi's case, a colonial domination system. And I'm coming from this in terms of or a model is family counseling. Family counselors in Ohio will lose their license if they are confronted by either abuse or safety questions, if they attempt to do sort of reflective listening, let's listen to both sides and sort of split the difference.
Yeah. I mean, my response to that comes from the whole nonviolence body of knowledge. Is the idea, the principle is to focus on safety first. So being nonviolent doesn't mean that you don't do anything. I guess we could see from Gandhi's and Martin Luther King's and a lot of other people, like you can use force, but you use force to protect as opposed then to punish. You use force to attend to needs as opposed to punish others for being bad or wrong. And it might seem subtle, but it's a huge, huge difference. So legally for family counselors, I don't have any information. I don't have any knowledge. I feel actually really concerned and sad imagining that listening to both sides is illegal in some ways, because that's, I mean, that's totally against any fibers of my body of what I think can be helpful for human beings is that they are, each of them are understood and each of them can understand themselves. I don't know, Irene, do you have a response to that part?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to, I think, clarify that if there's some kind of a dispute, certainly I understand, Francois, your desire to want to hear from both parties, but I liked where you started, which is that nonviolent communication is about safety. And we have something within our philosophy called protective use of force. And this would address taking someone from, or helping someone be protected from abuse or issues of violence. That's,
Oh, yeah.
that's precedence.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for that. Yeah. And legally, do you have any knowledge of that, Irene?
No, I would, other than the requirement to report when there are someone is relating the possibility or even the potential of abuse of themselves or another. That is a law that is in place for the protection of the people in those situations. Absolutely.
All right, thank you. I think we actually passed the time we agreed. I'm personally flexible. Maybe I'll just bring it back to Bonnie. Would you want to stop here, or do you suggest we continue a little bit?
Well, I would see if anyone else has a question, a burning question, maybe we could address that, but we should really close soon.
I would just ask if, sorry, this is Debbie Sachs in Cuyahoga Falls. I would just ask if there are any strategies for if you feel yourself being engaged in a conversation and you already feel that you are in a heightened emotional state about the topic or with that individual, how to de-escalate so that it can proceed in a healthier way.
Yeah, that's a very relevant question most of the time. I'd say the key question is, does anything productive happens out of the conversation with the state that you're in and the state that the other person is? And most of the time when both people are stimulated and triggered, there's actually nothing productive happening. It's actually deteriorating the relationship because harsher things are being said. It just doesn't help. So the only thing to do is actually take a break so we can move from this triggered state to a more calm state. So we use what we call emergency statements, something you have in your back pocket. And one of the version of that came from Marshall Rosenberg was, well, you would say something like, in this moment, I'm not trusting that anything that comes out of my mouth is going to help the situation or the topic we're involved in. So I prefer at this moment to remove myself from that conversation unless I can be in a place where I trust that we could get something that would be productive. So any version of that where that's the only way, unless you have quite a high communication skills, is to remove yourself, take a break, and come back. That's the only thing that can be productive. Irene, anything you want to add?
Yeah, that one, depending on the situation of the person you're talking to, I find it helpful to add what it is that I'm valuing in that situation. I may say to the person, it's really important to me to be able to have a conversation with you in which I'm respecting your point of view and that I'm treating you in a way that you know that you matter to me or what you're saying matters. And I'm not in a place where I can do that right now. And can we regroup later after I've collected myself? Because I want to I want to operate in a way that I'm meeting these values of how I want to interact with you.
Yeah, thank you. Does that help, Debbie?
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
I want to thank you all for being part of our conversation today. It is recorded, so we will have an opportunity to provide it archived in both the UCC and the DOC settings. I wonder, Bill, if you are still with us, if you would close us in prayer.
It'd be my pleasure. Let's pray. Almighty and gracious God, we just give you thanks for your very presence in the midst of these important conversations. God, we thank you for your spirit that gives us wisdom and gives us insight into how we can be faithful as we communicate with one another and communicate your word to transform this world and bring forth your kingdom. God, we're grateful for the leaders and their faithfulness in offering the insights that come from the gifts that you've blessed them with. Now, God, may we receive all what we have seen and heard, that our hearts may be inspired for the faithful leadership that's required of us as ministers of the gospel. But gracious God, we ask now that you hear our prayer. We ask it in Jesus' name. And let all of the Lord say, amen.
Amen. Irene and Francois, thank you very much for your assistance and your help. We look forward to having opportunities to work with you again.
Thank you so much for the invite.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.